Hey, this is Sully, and welcome back to Set the Pipe. I did promise you on my last video that I was going to announce my partner. Well, without further ado, let's get to it. Who do we got in the chair? There he is. There he is. The man, the myth, the legend. There's Tim Johnson. Bear, buddy.
What's up, brother?
Welcome
How
to
you
the
doing, Sully?
podcast, man.
It's good to see you.
Yeah,
What's going
good
on?
to see you. Tim and I talked for quite a long time, and he's looking to join the podcast full time, which is great. It's a big commitment. We all work, but we both have the same interest, and we've got some people lined up. And actually, we got somebody lined up today. But yeah, Bear, glad to have you on, man. I think it's going to be a fun time. Your knowledge of volleyball and who you know is fantastic, and I think we're going to have a lot of banter. And yeah, man, what do you think? What do you expect?
I'm looking forward to it. I think we can get some good guests on here, talk a lot of volley and have some good times and tell a lot of stories.
Yeah. I think once we started talking a little bit about this, you're like, yeah, I wasn't sure. But an hour and a half later, after we were talking about all the stories that we had and what other people had, I'm glad you just kind of was like, yeah, man, I want to be a part of this, which is great. So I explained in my first video that, you know, I work so much better in a team environment. Maybe that's what volleyball did to me. I work individually hard, right? But yeah, I think this is going to be a good deal. So I think you have somebody in the studio. Is our next guest around?
Our first guest.
Well, bring him on in, man.
See if you guys recognize this guy right here. CK in the house.
That's right. See,
what's up, fellas? Sully, Bear Guy, and how you doing? Welcome to be here. So happy to be here. Thanks for having me on my first ever podcast. Really excited to be here.
This is your first ever.
I've been wanting to do one, be on one. This is one of the first times I've ever done this, so I'm pretty excited.
Have you ever thought why no one's ever invited you on a podcast before, or is it just like totally obvious?
You know, I don't know. I've talked to a couple people in the hoops world when my son was playing, but never really ever got on one. My wife's been edging me to jump on some because I like to talk, as you both know.
Yeah, we do both know. So yeah, this is CK. This is Coley Kyman, and I'll give you a little background on Coley. He's married. Coley went to Cal State Northridge. That's how we compete with each other. And we also actually were teammates after college, but he married a Bruin, UCLA national champion Bruin, Michelle Mooney, right?
That is correct.
You know, I ask all the time, like, how in the world did she get so lucky? Like, you know,
I couldn't agree more. I mean, that's what I would say. I would say the majority of the world would probably say the opposite. How did I get so lucky? I mean, she's a wonderful, wonderful woman. We've been married for 27 years. We've been together for 30 years. She was able to help me deliver two wonderful sons that became
two kids,
athletes,
right?
So,
yep. So you got two boys. You got two boys. Jake, right? Jake started out Division I hoops at UCLA, actually made it to the Final Four, wound up his career at Eastern Washington. And then you have a son in high school still, Braden, and he just committed to Washington State. So congratulations on the great marriage. You got two kids. I mean, you went from full-time volleyball, like both of you and your wife, to absolutely 100% hoops. What a change in life.
Yeah, it was different for us. I mean, we both tried to get our children to play, both of them to play volleyball. We thought it would be
because they're monsters. How tall are these boys?
My oldest, Jake, is 6'7". He's 24 years old, and my youngest is Braden. He's 18, and he's 6'8".
Oh my gosh. Yeah, and instant liberos, right?
Instant liberos, right? It was crazy because when we grew up, we always had the volleyball outside. We were still coaching high school together, Michelle and I. You know, we're around volleyball all the time, whether it's a six-man or we're going to play for Paul Mitchell at the U.S. Open Nationals, and all our friends were playing. I got a chance back in 2008 to coach Jen Kessie and April Ross. And so my boys have been around volleyball forever, but they didn't want to play it. They fell in love with basketball. They can play volleyball. They can pepper. We set with them. We can play they can do some hitting, but for the most part, it's just been basketball. It's been great for both of them. I mean, my son had a wonderful career at Santa Margarita in high school, got to go play at UCLA for his dream school, went to the Final Four, played in the Final Four, and got to finish last year to get his master's degree at Eastern Washington and won the Big Sky Conference. So he had a wonderful basketball career. He's going to marry a Bruin volleyball player, similar to me, so we'll leave it at that. He's somehow involved in volleyball, even though he didn't play it.
Man, somehow I think your wife kind of finagled that deal. Had to finagle. They got another Bruin coming in the family. Ugh. I don't know how you can do it. I don't know
Yeah,
how you
it's
can do
tough. But I gladly wore the UCLA, and I'm very proud of it. I mean,
it.
obviously my
See,
wife there, and then
yeah.
my son being a Bruin as well. Playing in Pauley Pavilion, watching him hoop, it's still some of the greatest moments of my life as a father. Just to have him reach his goal and his dreams to get a chance to play there.
So we talked about you going to Northridge, and we talked about how we all met with ASICS Paul Mitchell was our club team. We won a couple of national championships there in the Open, and we've talked offline for years for like the people that we played with. We didn't even know they were going to be Olympians, right? We knew they were great, but we, just Olympians. And then with Tim and I playing at Long Beach State, we heard of this Coley Kyman guy, and I'll tell you my perspective on UCK was played with a smile, but probably the most intense guy out there. And then as soon as that whistle blew, you were smiles, cracking jokes, talking crap, but not in a like vindictive way. It was just part of your nature, and that you just stood out, and your leadership, people just gravitated to you, even across the net, right? So
I appreciate you saying that. Thank you.
yeah, brother.
It was a good run. I'm no longer an athlete, which we can get into later about that. I guess once an athlete, always an athlete, but I don't do much in the athletic standpoint anymore due to my ankle. But I love to compete. And I think in today's world, I have 2 sons. I think that's kind of lost a little bit, is to compete and have fun doing it. I don't like to lose. I still don't like to lose. I've never liked to lose, as you both know. Tim, you know that.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think just going out and competing and giving everything you have and leaving it, on the field, the court, whatever it is, you're a winner if you do that. And I think that's lost in today's game. Everyone wants to win. Everyone wants to get a scholarship. Everyone wants to do this. But just going out and competing with your friends, your teammates, and just giving it all you got, there's something to be said about that. And that's what I miss the most about being an athlete, is really competing.
And in the grand scheme of things, the audience needs to know that, Tim and I have a ring. Your wife has a ring, you know what I mean? But
Of course,
in terms of me, but of course,
Why at the beginning? I thought we were going to wait a little bit on this, Sully. But
well, my point is this. But CK was on the Northridge team that ended my career. That we were on the team that smoked everybody except Northridge. I mean, it was a phenomenal team. So as much as I can say a ring, I do remember, and I will always remember who ended my career, and that was Cal State University Northridge Matadors.
And believe me, I let a lot of your folks from your 49er fans know that. Matt Lyles hears it all the time. Every time I'm with him, anytime I'm with Knipe, it's always, hey, you got, I want to know. But your last game, who was your last match against? It was a loss against me. And Matty O and Geeter, that's all I can tell you. It was a loss. But you do have a ring. My wife has a ring. I don't. I lost in the national championship at UCLA against UCLA. It took me decades to get over, but they were better than we were. We played really well. Not good enough, but they were better than we were.
You joined us in club, and we let you come along for the ride for a couple of national championships. So you're
absolutely
welcome. We've got a couple questions for you throughout the whole podcast, and I'm going to take the first 2. Your favorite sound?
Favorite sound? The ocean.
Your least favorite sound?
My wife screaming at me.
Perfect.
Which is rare. That's why it's my least.
Yeah, I'm wondering a couple things about you, Coley, when you were a little younger. I know you had a tragedy with your mom. Can you go into that? Because we have a little bit of that in common.
Yes, absolutely. I was a freshman at Cal State Northridge playing volleyball, and it was in May. Season had just ended, and I got a phone call about 2 a.m, and my mom had a brain aneurysm. She was in the hospital for about 12 days and just, wasn't able to pull through. So losing, a parent is just difficult for anybody. Losing him at a young age, at 19, right when you're in the heart of growing up and needing your parent was very difficult.
How do you cope with that at such a young age?
I mean, Barry, you went through the same thing, right? I mean, it wasn't necessarily during college.
I was in my 30s, and my mom's been gone for about 21 years, and it's a very difficult thing. But being a teenager, I mean, how do you deal with that?
Everyone deals with grief differently. I think I was so fortunate to be playing volleyball and having my support system, which was with my friends in volleyball. I happened to go to the U.S. Olympic Festival that year. It was in Minneapolis, and there were so many of my friends. I just had finished my freshman year in college. I had a pretty good year as a freshman at Cal State Northridge. So, a lot of folks around the country kind of knew who I was. And so I had the opportunity to just pour everything I had into sport. And it really helped me deal with the grief. You know, Tim, it really helped me deal with the grief and to get over it. You never get over it, but to get over the daily grind of thinking about it and the sadness and doing what I loved, which was competing, as I said, getting a chance to compete. And my mom was one of those sports moms. She was the team mom at the soccer games. My dad was a high school coach for 40 years, 43 years. So she was a coach's wife. So she understood sports. And so for me to be able to compete, to be able to go out there and do that from the love of the game, and for me, really helped me through that. You know, and the last thing I'll say for me about that, and, you know, maybe this will help some folks out there as well, but what I learned at 19, and this also will go into something I'd like to say, is life can change in a second.
Sure.
And which leads me to say my heart, my thoughts and prayers out to everyone in Los Angeles. Numerous friends have lost their homes. And again, it goes back to what I just said. Things can change on the drop of a dime, and you just never know. And so what I learned, again, like we just said, from losing her at such a young age, is you got to live life to the fullest. You got to just take chances. You got to give everything you can. And, you know, when you wake up the next day, which we hope we do, you put on your pants and you get back to trying everything you can, because you just don't know when things will change that drastically.
Yeah. So both of you guys sitting next to each other with some tragedies with your moms, just big hearts, right? Let's go back to high school a little bit. You were a 3-sport athlete, is that right?
I played 2 of my 4 years.
Okay.
So I got to do that. I was at Reseda High School my freshman year. My 3 main sports in high school were football, basketball, and volleyball.
Right.
Volleyball started at Reseda High School my freshman year, which actually gives me a little story, if you don't mind me talking a bit more, which is weird. I get to talk.
What?
So,
So
1984, we have the Olympics here in Los Angeles. It's amazing, right? I get to go to a few events. It's great. I've never really played volleyball. I don't even know what volleyball really is, Tim.
Sure.
So 84 Olympics, they had a lot of money left over. So they put it in the park and recreations, which is another topic that I'd like to talk about, but that's down the road. They had a lot of money. So I'm in the gym working down at the local park, Winnetka Park, down where I grew up in Northridge. And I'm on the basketball team. It's 3-on-3. They're going to have a basketball 3-on-3 tournament. And so practice is over and I'm taking off my clothes my shoes, excuse me. And all of a sudden there's people putting up the nets, and the people were very cute girls putting up the net. And I'm about to be a freshman in high school. It's the summer before my freshman year. So I'm sitting here looking at this and I'm like, oh, I'll go try to play a little bit. So they go and I start hitting, and I just happen to be natural at it, like natural enough to, like, my footwork was okay. I could go up and swing at a volleyball without ever doing it before. And so the coach came up and talked to me and said, hey, do you want to play? Well, I said no, right? Because I'm a basketball guy. I've never played volleyball. Well, both the coaches of the volleyball and the basketball team for this rec organization to put us for these, the funding from the LA Olympics, they were brother, sister, and the sister played for my father at Chaminade High School. So the brother came out to me and said, listen, you're never going to play volleyball again. Why don't you play volleyball with them and have fun this summer? You're going to play basketball. So went and played volleyball, won a gold medal on the fact it was actually at UCLA on the grass with our team. And I fell in love with the sport, just fell in love with it. Got to Reseda High School. A couple other folks at school wanted to play too. So they started a program. So to go back to your question, I got to play volleyball in high school. So I played football, basketball, and volleyball. My freshman year, I ran track. I ran the 800 and did a high jump. And then my senior year, one of our football coaches asked me to come out because I played as a kid growing up in baseball, needed some bodies for about four games in a spring tournament. So I got to do that. Got to put on a baseball uniform, go out, get in at bat. Was pretty awesome. And then again, the main 3 sports is what I did at Reseda. Yeah, kind of crazy, right? To think I started volleyball just to do it because saw some pretty girls, thought it was great. Coaches said, why don't you give it a try? Turned it into starting it at high school. And then my junior year, if you want, I'm going to continue to talk about what made the success for me with volleyball, is I was going to play football. Football still to me is in my heart, which was part of the ankle and that stuff, which I'm sure you have a question or two later about. I was like, okay, I'm going to play football, but I started to fall in love with volleyball. The great Marvin Hall, rest in peace, Marv, came up to me after my junior year and said, hey, do you want to play club? I didn't know what club was. My parents didn't have a lot of money for that. I went and raised some. I got to go to the Junior Olympics. And from that point forward, it was 1988, Junior Olympics were in Fort Collins, Colorado. I met 2 of my best friends that are still my best friends to this day. I fell in love with volleyball. And it wasn't just the game itself. It was the culture of volleyball. It was the people of volleyball. It was the way things they did in volleyball. Came back home that year, my senior year. I actually signed a letter of intent to play college football at UNLV.
Right,
I was a big UNLV fan, big Randall Cunningham
quarterback.
fan. Yep, would go out to the summer camps at UNLV. And then I got to my spring in volleyball, and I just felt in my heart that I wanted to play volleyball, and I needed to go to college for it. And I chose to go play volleyball at Cal State Northridge.
Well, that's what we wanted to ask you about. Why Northridge? Why would you go to Northridge? Did you have any other offers anyplace else, or?
I was being recruited by a few schools, Pepperdine, USC, LMU. Grades weren't good enough to go to Stanford, or I might have been recruited to Stanford, but that's a different story. And I really loved John Price, and I loved the players when I went on my recruiting trip. Matt Unger, he was a freshman. He's still one of my best friends to this day. Bob Samuelson. These guys made me feel so comfortable. And even though I lived 4.5 miles away from Cal State Northridge, because I grew up in Northridge, they made it feel like it was a college to me, and I was going to get an opportunity. And then at the same time, Ken Lynch, who went to Crespi, Chris McGee, Eater, you guys see him on the Lakers, who also went to Crespi, Greg Weaver, who went to Chatsworth, and Gary Resnick, who went to Taft. We were all from the Valley. We all saw each other at a tournament, and we had all talked about, let's just go to school together. Let's go do something different. Cal State Northridge never had been to the playoffs before we got there. And all 4 years, myself, I mentioned Gary, Geeter, all these guys that helped evolve with the program. The program was already evolving. John Price had done such a great job. Neil Kaufman had come over. Rafael Tolino had come over. Like I said, Bob Samuelson was there. Just a tough league and hard to get into the playoffs. They changed a few things format-wise. And my freshman year, we get there, and we get to the postseason. And my senior year, we lose in the national championship. And I still have a lot of my best friends are still from that team at Cal State Northridge. And to go back after Marvin, I say this all the time, and I've told him this, and again, I miss you, Marv. I owe everything to the sport of volleyball. I owe my family, my friends, the way I've lived this life through this sport. And I am so grateful, Tim, to be able to have played it, to be able to have competed in it, and to be able to have made it and been grateful enough to have it be part of my entire life. I mean, you and I are sitting here, Sully, you're over there. We go way back. I mean, we played against each other in college, and we knew each other. We played each other together at Paul Mitchell for so many years. 30 years later, 35 years later, we're still friends. We're still talking. And again, I'm just so grateful for this sport. And it's so nice that you guys had me on this podcast to be able to talk a little bit about volleyball. Because again, I'm not around
Coley,
it as much.
let me stop you there, buddy, because people have to know when you talk about Bob Samuelson, Olympian, you were a three-time, correct me if I'm wrong, three-time All-American at Northridge, and I'm not too sure.
First team All-American, three-time first team All-American.
Consensus All-American, which doesn't happen very often. That means everybody voted you first team. Super impressive, right? And then, so I'm going to go back to how you started volleyball, because when I interviewed Tim, we talked about, he was kind of doing the basketball thing. And the basketball, he's kind of like, hey, let's get in the gym and see what you can do. My first experience in the gym, because my sister played at Fresno State, right? They just thought it was osmosis. And so I remember my first swing. Remember, I had a 40-inch vertical, right? So my first swing must have went up 60 feet up in the air and hit the glass on the top of the gym. And everybody's looking at me like, what? I'm like, I wasn't a natural. And I had goofy feet coming into college. It took me my whole redshirt year to switch it. It was brutal. So to hear that you were a natural at it, man, that's pretty sweet. Tim too. Tim, I think you were pretty natural at it too, going from basketball to volleyball. I thought you caught on a lot quicker.
Well, I remember my freshman basketball coach actually walked me down to the volleyball tryouts. That's how I got started. Just thinking maybe it might help with my basketball skills. And I remember the first time I took a swing at the volleyball, I hit the floor, and I'm like, wow, this is a lot easier hitting a little volleyball into a 30 by 30 court than putting a basketball into a basket.
Let me stop that. Did you hear what he said? Another coach in high school had walked him to play another sport. All you coaches out there, let the kids play multiple sports. We've lost that. I understand it's important to train. I understand it's important to push that one sport, especially if you're trying to get to the next level. But so much is lost in it. Tim's a great example. I'm a great example. I played so many sports, as I mentioned, in high school, and I wouldn't even have played volleyball if it wasn't for basketball. And I played 2 in college. I mean, I got to play college football. We talked about my Northridge career.
That was my next intro, was you got to play something that I almost did myself at Long Beach State, right? Talked to the head coach and wanted me to go out there. You already heard about me because I was going to go to Fresno State and play football. So you actually did it though, right? And quarterback. So I didn't know Coley, the football player, until we got to ASICS Paul Mitchell, and then you couldn't shut up about it. But besides that, you have this great picture, and we're going to put it up on this podcast of you just high stepping against San Diego State, I think, right? Scoring a touchdown. It is Coley Kyman in a box. I mean, it is who you are. It is what you are. That picture is, in my opinion, that's CK right there. And everybody, I can't imagine, would go, no, there's another picture. I mean, it is you encompassed into one picture, just your energy, your competitiveness. It's a brilliant picture. And I can't wait for everybody to see it. But yeah, you had a really bad ankle injury though, like really bad ankle injury. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. So football will always be in my heart, my first passion. My father was a high school football coach.
Yeah,
my father played college football. I coached a little high school football right when I finished at Cal State Northridge. I love the game.
Yeah,
but as I told you earlier, Tim, that volleyball, I owe everything to my life. I fell in love with the game. So I'm there my freshman year, and I had a really good freshman year. John Price was amazing. The team was amazing. Like I said, it's still one of my best friends, but I felt like something in my soul was missing. I'd sit out on a Friday night in October at Northridge on my balcony with my friends. I'm getting excited for volleyball practice. There's a beach court where we're living, and I just smell the grass, and I'm just missing football, like really, truly missing the game. And I had a long talk with John Price, and due to the way scholarships were and what it was, it actually worked out great. And he was fine with me playing football. Again, not many high school coaches allow people play multiple sports, but John Price, who was my volleyball coach, was supportive of it. So I got the chance to go back out. I said I was recruited. I turned down after signing a commitment to UNLV. So it was exciting. They were happy to have me come out. I was happy to come out. I was a backup quarterback most of my career, but it was fantastic. I wouldn't have changed it for anything in the world. So now my senior year, I'm about to start. It's exciting. I've had a couple other games where I've played, made some good opportunities and whatnot. And so it's my senior year. We go down to San Diego State. It's Marshall Faulk's a junior year. He's supposed to win the Heisman. Smith and Street magazine has him rushing for 700 yards against us. They're supposed to beat us by 70. We're playing at Jack Murphy. We normally play like Long Beach at Veterans Stadium. By the way, we played Veterans Long Beach's last season. They got their win against us so they could be 500, but different story. So we're down at San Diego State. I'm excited. I'm about to start, ready to play. Huge stadium, 50,000 people. And it's going well. We drive down, we miss. We drive all the way down. I hit a guy, drops it in the end zone. It's okay. It happens, because I throw a pick here and there. We go to kick the field goal. We miss it. First play from scrimmage from the 20, they hand it to Marshall, 80 yards, gone. I'm like, wow, watching him run's like, okay, I guess it is going to be like they said. Well, fast forward almost to the fourth quarter. Before I tell you about my ankle, Marshall Faulk had more yards in his NFL rushing debut for the Rams than he did against the Cal State Northridge Matadors. So let's make sure we understand that.
Okay, yeah, perspective.
We were also, before the ankle broke, we were driving to tie the game. They beat us. They were better than us, but we were in there. And after I watched tape later, I made some bad reads too. There were guys wide open I should have hit. So it's the fourth quarter. We're driving maybe on a 35-40 of theirs, drop back to pass, and just one of those things that happen in the game of football. I got hit. My ankle broke. I wish my ankle broke. My ankle didn't break. My ankle shattered in pieces. It dislocated. It was facing the complete opposite way. It was a rough one. I had surgery. Tried to still, took a lot of time to do that. I was able to go back and play volleyball over in Europe professionally. I was able to play a little bit on the beach, a couple four-man tournaments, trying to get into the AVP here and there. Still able to play nationals for a bunch of years. I just was never the same after that injury. But I have zero regrets. And knowing what I know now with my ankle, I'd go back and do it again. As I told you, I love the game of football. I love the game of football. People ask me about my children if we're going to talk about football. They both played flag football. They loved it. They know exactly what happened. And I'm going to get to your answer to specifically about the ankle in 1 second. But I would have supported, I would have loved in my heart if my boys wanted to play tackle football, but they didn't. And I couldn't be happier that they didn't want to play. It is a brutal game. It's a violent game. It's an amazing game. It's a special game. And like I said, I would have supported it and been happy. Now that they didn't want to play it, was even happier. So ankle goes bad. I still try to play. Fast forward all these years later, 2018, at the end of 2018, I finally waited long enough. I was ready to replace the ankle with a joint replacement. It took a long time. Technology finally caught up. To make a long story short, as you know, I like to talk, but to make a long story short, the wheels fell off when I had the surgery. Up until that point, it was 25 years from September 4th, 1993. It's not like I ever remember that is when I broke it. I'm in November of 2018. I'm about to replace the ankle. I'm excited. I'm going to be able to go back and play pickleball, maybe play some pickup hoops, play some four-man on the beach. And the wheels fell off. They went into an incision that they had did once before, and the incision just opened up. There was nothing they could do, nobody's fault, couldn't staple it again, couldn't do anything. So all of a sudden, I go from having an ankle replacement where I'm going to be excited to, if you can see my arm right here, not sure if you can, it's a skin graft.
Got the graph on there, right?
I'm in the hospital for 10 days. I have a skin graft. They skin graft my ankle. They're trying to save the prosthetic. So it was just, it was tough. Again, to keep this a little bit short, is from 11 months later, 11 months, 7 surgeries, 2 different stays in the hospital, 10 days the first one, 10 days the second one, staph infection, fungal infection, finally came to the point where there was nothing they can do. I went into a surgery agreeing that I might come out with my ankle off. Like they didn't know if the fungal infection was in the bone.
Right.
So I woke up and it was fused, or was going to get fused. Part of that whole process was 11 months, 7 surgeries, 2 different stays in the hospital, and now I have a fused ankle. Good news from that. I feel great. My ankle's great. Doesn't hurt. I have no more pain. The negative is I can't play sports. I can't run. I can't jump.
Do you have a cool walk? Not that you could jump before, by the way, but can you have a cool walk now?
I do have a cool walk. And
Okay.
I've actually, I've overcome that to be where it's practically normal. Most people don't even know. But to be honest with you, kind of like what we said, I'm sitting in the hospital and I'm just going to myself, like, I just want to walk.
Sure.
I've played enough in my life. I'd love to keep playing, but I just want to be able to walk. I want my foot. I want to be able to walk. And sure enough, I was able to do that. So, that's where I'm at right now with regards to sports. As I said, I don't do much in regards to competing, but I'm grateful. I'm super grateful.
Hey,
Right
real quick, to go back to Northridge a little bit, can you tell us one of your greatest moments there? Either football, volleyball, whatever.
Yeah, probably not going to want to hear this, but we call it All-Star Weekend. That's what we call it at Cal State Northridge. It's called All-Star Weekend. And let me tell you why. Our baseball team,
Because Long Beach State was showing up to your campus. Go ahead.
our baseball team that year was playing the number 2 team in the country in baseball, Hawaii, for a 3-game stand. Our women's softball team, who was ranked in the top 10, was playing number 1, Fresno State, at Cal State Northridge. And this team that was undefeated, that had won the national championship the year before, that had yet to lose, that was smashing everyone 3 straight. They were called the Long Beach State 49ers in volleyball. And they were playing also at Northridge that weekend. So I would look back at a lot of different things in my life, like you mentioned, especially at Northridge. But I'll tell you, for me, that's got to be, if not the number 1 time, because let me tell you something. We swept. We beat the crap out of Long Beach that night. Our baseball team swept Hawaii that weekend, and our women's softball team swept Fresno State. The parties Friday, Saturday, and Sunday night were just special, Tim. They were special. So winning that against the number 1 team in the country in a packed gym, probably one of the best moments, in Northridge of my Northridge life. And then to top it all off, that whole weekend, like I said, it was just special. And we had such a bond, and you guys were similar to this at Long Beach because we talked about this. When you go to a commuter school or you go to a state school like Cal State Northridge, where there's not hundreds of thousands of people piping into a football game every weekend, sometimes you have to manufacture things, right? And the best part about my journey at Northridge is I call it lightning in a bottle. There was a lot of the like-minded people that showed up at the same exact time in all the sports, from basketball to baseball to softball. I'm still friends with a lot of them. And so it was such a wonderful time at Northridge during that time. We were some of the best. My freshman year at Northridge, Volleyball was Division I, but everything else was Division II, from football to baseball to basketball. My freshman year, our baseball team lost in the Division II national championship. As you know, the jump from D2 to D1 is astronomical. It's very hard. It's very difficult for most people. 2 years later, our women's softball team played back-to-back national championships, losing to Arizona. Our men's baseball team was a hitch away from going to the College World Series 2 years after going into Division I. Unheard of. And our Northridge team was top 3, top 4 in the country almost every year. Beating you guys that year that you were number 1, going the following year after that, losing to UCLA in the national championship. It wasn't just us, it was a conglomerate of athletes and sports teams at Northridge that were special during that time. So that answered the question. It was when we beat your ass 3 straight.
I'm sorry I asked.
Yeah. Okay. But I mean, even at Long Beach State during that era, I mean, during our time there, you remember Jason Giambi, right? Brian Russell, Lucius Harris, the women's won, national championship. You had Tara Cross, 3-4-time Olympian. I mean, I think just during that 3 to 4 year period there was amazing athletes during our time at Northridge and at Long Beach State. So got another one, Coley. Okay. Green
keep
sauce.
it coming.
Green sauce or red sauce?
I'm going to go red sauce, but don't mind green.
Tacos or burritos?
Tacos.
Oh, all right. Back to the podcast. Here we go.
Go back to your burrito. Unless you're driving to Vegas or Havasu and you stop at the OG Barstow, well, it used to be Nagos, but the OG Barstow Del Taco, then you got to get a burrito because the way they make their burritos they're 2 times the size of any other Del Taco burrito.
See, fairness. These audience needs to know. They need to know that. Write that down, right?
Yeah.
Hey, so after Northridge, I think you did some national team stuff, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But tell us a little bit about ASICS Paul Mitchell.
ASICS Paul Mitchell, unbelievable opportunity. Yeah. So U.S. Open Nationals is a wonderful event that USA Volleyball has put on for years. In fact, before the NCAA used to crown a national champion, the only way the national championship was crowned was at this event before men's volleyball blew up. So I got to go early on in my career, right while I was still in college. Someone from Northridge that I knew invited me to play one year. So I went and played my first year in Kansas City. The team I was on lost in the gold medal game to Nike. And it was Nike at the time and Paul Mitchell. Yeah. So the following year, we were able to somehow take that sponsorship and garner it for us, and we became ASICS Paul Mitchell. Alan Knight,
how'd that happen? Tim and I don't know how that happened. Do you know how was that brokered? Do you know?
Yeah, I do. So what happened is actually I have to go back and tell the real story. So the first year I played. The next year, Mike Delisandro, who was an assistant coach on that Long Beach State team,
Biggs,
Alan Knight, Winslow, a couple of you guys, they were putting a team together for the first time, and they asked me to play. And I said, sure, I'd love to. So I got a chance to play. So my second time playing at Nationals, I played for 17 years in a row, by the way, for that opportunity. So the second year I played, I started playing with Knight, Deli, could go on Bear, a few others. So the third year we're playing, this is now my senior in 1993. So this is my third year playing, my second year with the team. We're still not Paul Mitchell yet. Okay, so it's our third year team. We're just ASICS, Al Knight, Deli, Hugh Foster. We go out to Memphis. It's our senior year. Hugh Foster's on our team. Presh, Bear, Sully, Cooch. I could go on. Knight. And we have such a great team with some unbelievable players. This is when we played Nike, Paul Mitchell in the championship for the second straight year, but played them in the finals, and we beat them. And we beat them pretty handily. Had a couple national team guys, a couple ex-Olympians on their team.
Yep.
And that's when we went right. Mark Prussia was playing on the 4-man, which was 4-man Bud Light. Paul Mitchell was a sponsor. Prussia had become real good friends with Julie Solwold and Paul Mitchell. They weren't sure what was happening. Iggy with Team Nike was kind of fading a little bit. And we were able to just capture that sponsorship right from there. And we became Paul Mitchell. ASICS was a part of it for a beginning.
Right.
And then we just became Paul Mitchell. And we ran that for 14 straight years when I was there. Like I said, it was my third year, and we were able to be part of Paul Mitchell for 14 straight years.
Now, it was Raymond's Construction before that with Biggs and Rocky Sorelli and Tom Pestalacci and that whole crew, right? Am I right with that? Then it just kind of formed.
You are 100% right. I appreciate you saying that, because that is truly the foundation, and we're this team. They are this team. We just changed the name. This was Raymond Construction. And
Yeah.
that's the team they asked me to play for my first, the year after I'd played. So the first 2 years I played with them was Raymond Construction. We had beat Nike, Paul Mitchell in the finals in Memphis, walking on Memphis. And from there, we took over the sponsorship. And Mark Prescio, Alan Knight, myself, pretty much ran the team. We talked, asked who we wanted to be on the team. 3 of us did different things, logistics, flights, whatever it would be, to bring the best quality players, but more importantly, the best quality people that fit the Paul Mitchell, way
Memphis was so fun.
Yeah, it really was.
The town was so fun. It really, I mean, it's not like it was now, but back in the day, man, just packed and dual piano bars. And after we
It's
won,
still the same, Sully. It's still the
Yeah.
same. I was just there last year with my son for hoops, and it was special to be on Beale Street. It's still special.
It is. Yeah, Beale's pretty sweet.
I go back to that 93 team. It was my first national championship we won. They bill it as a national championship at the time. Now there's international teams. It was a special weekend, or 4 or 5 days, and for us to win, and just to parlay that, Bear, into how many years we got to go, from Holyoke, Massachusetts, to Dallas, Texas, to Tulsa, Oklahoma, to Nevada, Reno. I could go on forever, to Tucson, Arizona, Austin, Texas. I'm missing some, I'm sure, but
What a great experience. You get to see a lot of the country play volleyball and have a blast for that week. It's just one of the best things.
Bear, it's funny. We've talked about this a number of times, tongue in cheek, but we go to Tulsa and we win this thing, and Robert Cooch, right? All-American block phenom out of Long Beach State, right? He's playing, and who's on the bench, guys?
Tom Hoff.
He is the USA Olympic gold medalist team captain, and he's sitting on the bench. You talk about talent and chemistry that was around us. And I just remember the big dog pile afterwards, and you have this big 6'8" skinny guy just jump on the top of everybody because that was his first national championship.
He was also younger, by the way. If it was a couple years later, he would not have been on the bench.
No, for sure. But just to tell this story, brother, like, you're like, So
no, you're
anyway,
right. I mean,
all good times. Yeah.
We could go on. I mean, if we want to talk about Paul Mitchell, we can. And by the way, I think having a group of the Paul Mitchell group on this podcast would be amazing. I'd love to come back on it, because Eric Sullivan, who's now the new U.S. women's coach,
women's
played multiple times with us.
Yeah,
Matt Furbringer,
yep.
who coaches the new pro league out of Madison. He played with us multiple years. Mike Seeley, who just retired from coaching at UCLA. He was our setter for a long time. John Wallace coached at Santa Clara. I could go on and on and on. Matt Riles, yourself, him.
Yeah.
Younger players. Tyler Hildebrand. He's coached multiple USA teams. He's now the head coach.
He's now
at St. Mary's. There are so many players that have played with us, for us, but with us at Paul Mitchell, that have done nothing but special things for the sport of volleyball. From playing it, to coaching it, to parenting it.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned, Matt Furbringer.
Oh, yeah.
His wife, Joy Furbringer, played also at Nationals, played with my wife's team. They have a daughter, Charlie Furbringer. She was an All-American
played at Long Beach State, baby. Natty champ.
Joy's Long Beach State 49er. They both coached there for a small period of time.
Yes, they did.
When you look at the Paul Mitchell chain and what we've done as just a group with volleyball, the fun we had, the championships we've won, championships we've lost, but what that group has done for volleyball, like I just mentioned, from so many of us parents that have kids playing volleyball, coaching
How many
volleyball.
Olympians were on those teams?
I'd have to count that.
Guess.
If I had to guess, I mean, Winslow played with us. I could keep going. I mean, there's so many guys.
You got Knipe that coached. You got Knipe that coached. Furbringer that assistant, right? Then you had Eric Sullivan, Tom Hoff, Carl Hinkle on the beach.
David Smith played with us too.
Yep. I mean, Olympians.
Ryan Millar played with us. I mean, so we again, I think what I'll do, because I've been talking to Pressure about this, I'd actually like to write this stuff down to see how many folks we really did. There was a couple people that played 1 or 2 years here or there that were Olympians, or that went on to play professional beach volleyball or professional over in Europe for a bunch of years. Mike Deal played with us for a season. He was in Europe for 12 or 14 years. Like I said, the tree of folks that have played volleyball with our Paul Mitchell team is simply incredible. And just the stems or the wires or from that whole group is something that I think would be great for this podcast to have.
You know, and I got to tell you, Coley, so before I moved, so about 10 years ago, in Idaho, they had no idea what Open Nationals was. They didn't know, they literally didn't know existed until it went to Salt Lake City, and a couple of them like drove down there just to look. They're like, oh my gosh, where has this been my whole life? Oh, it's been around since 70s. You know what I mean? A very long time. But, you know, Bear and I have been talking, Coley, and, you know, we really want to put a lot of effort into this podcast, right? And it does take time, and we're looking for a third, brother. And we thought with you coming on the first time, we'd actually love to have you. If you know, I probably got to take it all with Michelle, but we're really looking for a third Set the Pipe host. And what we're looking for is the third solid. So it'd be us three. If something's going on in our life, we have the two, but we want to bring on guest hosts, right? That pops in every once in a while, and then have guests like yourself. We can have, with the technology we're using at Riverside, it can go up to 8 people. So I don't even know if I want you to ask Michelle. I just want you to say yes. Yeah, I don't know, man. Just I've said it. Your personality comes out like crazy. We don't have to be super professional.
I'm in. I'm sitting here thinking I'm 54 years old. I love to speak. It gives me a chance to talk. And I would love to. I think it would be great.
You need to call Michelle real quick and, you know, just check in with her, or like she's down.
I think she would be down.
I don't have her number, but I'd call her if I had her number.
So yeah, you can call her right now, but she's probably working out, to be honest with you. So
no, you're right. And yeah,
welcome.
So that's another, and so, okay. It comes with the package deal. We have to interview her.
I think that would be great.
Okay,
I mean, she coached volleyball. She trains right now. She's a personal trainer, and a bunch of her clients are young girl volleyball players that are playing in high school or in middle school. And so she has knowledge of volleyball. Because of that, her especially, but I've went with her, gotten a chance to go watch some high school volleyball, which we haven't done for years because my kids are hoopers.
Right.
So that's been really cool to get back into it. Obviously, a lot of my friends play at the collegiate level, some of them at the international levels. We have really focused over the last couple of years, maybe about a year, to be more involved in volleyball. So first of all,
I wouldn't mind having the Kyman clan on here. The boys too.
Yeah, they would love to, I think. Yeah, but let me go back to that. I just want to say thank you both.
Yeah,
I'm honored,
brother. Yeah, Tim and I talked about it. We're like, dude, like Coley's going to be our first interview. Let's ask him. Tim's like, hell yeah, let's ask him. I'm like, all right, let's do it then. It wasn't a long decision to ask because frankly, you could have said no. So, dude, you're on. Set the pipe, brother.
Set the pipe. I mean, that was one of the things I would always say. And back in our day, not many people were like really hitting out of the back row. You were on the D. Steve Timmons was doing it, right? I mean, you know, Red was crushing it on the right side on the D, but not a lot of people running Bics or pipes. And I love running the pipe. I know Hilly did
me too. So loved it. I
always used to say, set the pipe. And so for this to be the podcast and for you to ask me to be a part of that, I just think it's funny. And just for everyone to know going forward when you're playing volleyball, I know things have changed with the middles not playing as much in the back row, but when you're in the back row, just set the pipe.
That's set the pipe,
that's all
baby.
You have to do
I'm telling you.
And set the pipe.
I got to tell you that over the last 5 or so years, the women's game has actually, they're doing it. They're setting the pipes. They're trying to set the bics. It's made the women's game just so dynamic. And we're not talking like the top 5 teams in the country. We're talking about everybody, right? As long as the coaches, if the coaches make it part of their offense and part of their culture, man, set the pipe's going to be the way to go.
Absolutely. So, yeah, I mean, you know, like, I think it's great. I'm excited. I appreciate you asking me.
Yeah, man.
Obviously, we can talk stuff offline to get going, but
yeah,
I think it's great. And I think there's so much to be told about the sport of volleyball, not just where do you go in the rotation, besides setting the pipe, what, you know, all of those things about how do you pass and serving, those things are great. And I think, you know, just thinking in the last 45 seconds of you asking me to be on there, I think that stuff's important to put on a podcast. But I also think it's important for us, like you told me why you asked me to be on here, which is even more so, is just to tell stories, right? Yep. Like to talk about me, if we have another guest, to talk about them, to pivot. I think the three of us, some stories could probably be told on this microphone and some probably couldn't.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah,
No
but like, I
idea.
mean, listen, if we got the Paul Mitchell group together, it might be
My
an
good
entire
Lord.
year of episodes if we just took one story. Like, I'm not going to tell it, but the first time we ever, went to Buca de Beppo for our pregame, our pre-finals game, and singing happy birthday to one person in a group with our shirts off, and the rest of the story goes on. But there's stories after stories to tell about the sport of volleyball and what makes volleyball unique and such a great sport to be a part of within the culture of volleyball. And that's what I love about volleyball is it's not just the game itself when you're playing, it's the way people are outside of the game of volleyball that are part of the culture of the sport of volleyball. And I think it's awesome. And I think, thanks again for having me on here to tell my story, and more importantly, to invite me to listen and tell more stories with others.
Okay, questions. Here we go. Favorite time of the year?
Questions.
Coley,
I'm
favorite
sorry?
time of the year?
Probably December. It's my birthday a month. It's Christmas. It's the holidays. I'm a big fan of the holidays. Always have been. So probably my favorite time.
Least time of the year?
Least favorite time of the year.
Yep.
Even though I love it, I'd probably say, the end of August because summer's over and school's starting. It's a lot of, not that much work for me, but for parents and ourselves, the kids are back in school. Structure's great, but the summers are wonderful. The time away from school is wonderful. So that would probably be my two.
Okay, back to the podcast. Hey, Bear, you guys actually, Coley, USA, right? Playing for USA. You and Bear actually did a trip to Colombia with a couple of you guys. Make sure you guys talk about that. You were good enough. You were an undersized middle, right? But you were a true middle through and through. Did you go to the national team? Did you play for the national team? Did you represent USA? Because I know you did the Colombia trip, but yeah,
I did.
I mean,
I did a little bit. Back then, I wasn't an undersized middle. In the early '90s, I graduated high school in '89. 6'5" was pretty tall. Today, I'm
quick arm swing,
fastest arm swing in the West.
Fast arm swing, very fast arm swing.
During my college years, I got a chance to play in the summers with a lot of the USA team. I got to go to 2 World University games.
Okay.
I got to play in the Pan Am games with the USA team. I got to go on a couple tours with the USA team. But when my time was to play USA volleyball, wasn't the same person after that football injury. Still,
yeah, for sure.
Still was pretty good, but
Fair.
I just wasn't the same. So it never panned out to what I wanted to do. I wanted to be an Olympian. And that was my goal. It's what my whole goal was as a kid. But it was okay. I still played on the USA team. I still have my jersey with my name on it. I got to walk out in different venues and wear the USA. There's nothing like it. There's not anything that I can tell you playing sports that gives you the chills and your heart and soul full of just joy and gratitude to represent this wonderful country and to have those three letters on your chest. And that's what matters. The back doesn't matter, right? The 3 matter. And to be able to travel around the world, I got to go to Greece. I got to go to Cuba, and I'm wearing those. Was awesome. Would I have liked to play longer? Of course. Would I have liked to make the Olympics? Who wouldn't have? But I got to play on the USA.
Yeah,
I got to do some pretty cool things with that. Yeah, absolutely.
I think closest I got to the Olympic team was Matty Lou gave me one of his pair of shoes, which was like 2 sizes too small, but I took them.
So I'm going to go back to that story you just talked about, which was going down to Colombia, because it's pretty cool and pretty special. And it actually stems from Paul Mitchell.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
So Bear and I are on Paul Mitchell. I don't remember. This was the 1995 Pacific Ocean Games. We had just lost in the finals to the Ukraine national team.
Yeah.
Who actually in Holyoke, Massachusetts.
And okay, so I'm gonna stop you there, Coley. That was the match before was when Presho got hurt in warmups, and he was our Nationals MVP the year before. And so that's when Eddie Rapp came up to me and Geeter both were like, okay, so you're going to play. I'm like, okay. They're like, okay, like you're going to play because Presho's down. I'm like, okay. Do you not know I've been playing against the number 1 team in the country for 4 years? What are you talking about? Killed it, by the way, right? And then that's when Kniper and Hinkle came back from their 4-man because they flew. And I'll never forget it. I'll never forget Coley Kyman, Eddie Rapp, and Geeter come in my hotel room, and they tell me, they're like, "Hey, we got to talk to you." Okay. He's like, you're probably not gonna play tomorrow. Okay. They're like, "Dude, you played awesome. You were so good. You should be out there. And we really fought for you." I'm like, not my decision. Not my decision, but I'll never forget you three had my back. And just because remember, I wasn't an All-American in college. I wasn't gonna be on an Olympic team or anything. For you guys
There's only 6 players that get to be on the first team All-American. I mean, like I said, I was there 3 times, but who cares? But it's not easy to do, is what I'm saying. It's really difficult.
No,
actually.
I mean, but just to get that back, right? And I think that was the ASICS Paul Mitchell creed almost, right? Is from top to bottom, everybody had each other's back. But yeah, that was a tough loss. I remember Eric Sullivan was there, and I mean, he was pissed afterwards, and it was
well, he was there because he was blocking on the left once, and he pulled his heads down, and I got hit straight in the face from a ball, and he said, "Oh, sorry about that." I'm like, "Yeah, these guys just went the next year, and the whatever's 96 and beat our
when
Olympic
Michelle
team."
saw you and said, "Oh, who's that guy?"
Yeah, I do have to say, Coley probably played the best against the Ukraine team.
Oh, no doubt.
Than anybody else
They
on
were
our
good.
team.
They
He
were
was putting
freaking
balls
good.
away. Phenomenal.
They beat our Olympic team in 96, so
Yeah,
they were
good. No, but
So
we made
to
the
go back
finals.
to
We
that
were in
story.
the finals. But yeah,
I was in the finals. We're in the finals every year. I mean, I said I played in that
True
thing
story.
17 years. I played in nationals for 17 years.
People wrapped around our court sitting
15
down.
of my 17 years, 15 of the 17 years, I played for the gold medal.
Yep.
Wow. And
How many
8
did
of
you
them
win?
I won.
8?
8 of them I won, 7 of them I lost. But the fact that I got to play with, again, we talked about Paul Mitchell and a lot of these players. This isn't just me, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't play tennis. I'm playing with some of the best players in the country. But the other thing is, and you guys know this, it wasn't just the players we had. We all are cut from that same old school cloth.
Yeah, for sure.
Winning is winning. And we will do what it takes. If I have to sit on the bench this game because that's what needs to happen, then that's the way it goes. If you need me to come play, great. You need me to play one play. You need me to come cheer for you. You need me to bring me waters. Whatever it took for this team to win.
Absolutely right.
We found ways to win. Now, sometimes we lost. I just mentioned we played against the Ukraine national team.
Yeah.
We didn't, those kind of things. So that year we lose. Pacific Ocean Games decide to come back. I guess it took a couple years off. And so they go to USA Volleyball. We need a team. USA Volleyball didn't have a team. There was no B team at the time. Their national team was traveling somewhere. So they put a call in to us. We were probably the next best team in the United States next to the national team. So there was another team from the East Coast. They were awesome guys. And so they asked us to put a team together. And so we grabbed a couple guys from the team from the East Coast and a lot of Paul Mitchell guys. We had Tim Kelly, Chris McGee, Geeter was the center, Tim Bear Johnson. We had Paul Nihipali. I go down a few other folks as well.
East
so we
Coast
got
guys, yeah.
Sully.
Oh, Eric Sullivan.
Yep, Eric was there.
Pat Sinclair, who was also on the USA team. So they asked us to go down to Colombia. And so I'm not sure if it was Colombia who was picking up the bill, USA Volleyball. This is it's actually a really funny story. And, so we all get down there. We're there for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay. They fly us into Colombia. We get there. We are in, I think it was Cali, Colombia was the main city. So the tournament itself was about 45 minutes away, an hour away. So they brought us there first for a night, took us an hour away in buses, and we were there for like a week and a half, 2 weeks to this where the tournament was.
Perea.
There you go.
Yeah.
Perea. After that, they were bringing us back to Cali to play exhibition games in a bigger arena. So the goal was to go play in the tournament, and there it was. USA Volleyball was awesome, but this was makeshift. It was fast. It was quick. We need to put a team together. So we got T-shirts and shorts that said USA Volleyball. They printed a couple numbers on them. We didn't look spectacular, but hey, we're playing this. We're all excited.
Right.
Tim Kelly, who's amazing, who's done a lot for volleyball. He's another person, speaking of the podcast, I think would be great to have on. He still does international tours. He's a national champion at UCLA. He's a wonderful person that's done a lot for the sport.
Cut back.
He's fluent in Spanish. So he's like, listen, we're all like, we can't wear these T-shirts. We're playing for the United States of America in this big event. There's a bunch of, there's Peru, there's Colombia, there's Chile, there's 1 or 2 teams from Asia, because again, it's you have to border the Pacific Ocean. So it's a pretty big tournament. 8,000 people in this venue every night to watch.
Yeah, that's what Bear was telling me. He's like 8 to 10,000 people showing up to watch us play.
It was amazing. For me, I never got to go to the Olympics like everybody wants to, but that was kind of the Olympics I got to experience.
I mean, there was an opening ceremonies, there was everything. I mean, and
Yeah.
this is a big deal. We, on the other hand, aren't a normal team. We haven't even really practiced that much together. A lot of our Paul Mitchell guys are together. We have a few folks from the East Coast team. They were an ASICS team. Great guys. They could play too. We all knew them. A couple guys played in college at George Mason and a few other places.
Okay.
So we get to this place and we start to practice. And it's so different for us because A, we're in t-shirts and shorts. B is we're just there to have a great time and win. Again, this is the Paul Mitchell Nationals attitude. We're still going to go out and have a good time. We're going to go view things and see things around this country, but we're going to come and we're going to win. Okay, we might not take it the same way as a national team would. Like if I was playing for the national team, we wouldn't be out till 2 or 3 in the morning every night. We wouldn't, we'd be getting up and breakfast and serve and pass and practice and
Breaking down video, all that stuff, right?
we didn't really do that for this team. Again, it was a quick one. Things are different. We were going out. We were enjoying what we were there to do besides volleyball, which is we were visiting a country. We were honored to be there, but we wanted to win too. So, I'm trying to deviate from some of these stories. So Tim Kelly and I call back to USA Volleyball and say, listen, we can't wear these. We're the #1 team here. We think we have a real chance to win this thing. What do you think? They're like, okay, just go get it done. Whatever you need to do. So TK and myself, Tim Kelly, TK and myself are walking through the streets of Colombia and we find this little store and they're soccer uniforms. They have soccer uniforms and whatnot. So we have them make 11 of us, I think there was 11 uniforms in less than 24 hours. I still have it. It's pretty awesome. They look like soccer uniforms back in the 90s, right? So you can imagine, not volleyball uniforms, but they were sharp and they were pretty cool. So they made us these uniforms, which we got to wear for the majority of the tournament. So now we look professional, so to speak. And, we went out and we won all of our matches. We get to the semifinal match where I think it was Peru. We might've been playing in the semis and we beat them and Colombia does their part. So now we get to play Colombia in the gold medal match in the Pacific Ocean Games in Colombia.
Home team.
It's all over the TV. It's all over everything. There's going to be 10,000 folks in this thing. We have folks like Tim Bear Johnson, who played at Long Beach, had some great, but never really played international.
No,
right?
It's my first international.
You got Chris McGee, who was a star in his own right, but had never set a volleyball in this kind of environment in front of
for sure.
people.
Yeah.
He's seen when we beat you guys in front of 3,000, but not 10,000. So this whole thing is exciting. So then to make it even better, a couple days before one of our last matches, we decide to go out. It's our whole team. It's everyone. All of us go out in the nightlife in Colombia. So we're sitting in this bar in Colombia, and the next thing you know, TK and Sully go behind these doors to talk to someone. We're all sitting there having drinks. Aguardiente, I believe, is the name of the little shot that was amazing. For 10 or 15 minutes, we're all sitting in this area like, where'd they go? What are they doing? Now we're starting to think bad stuff. Like, oh my God, are they going to come out? What's happening? The next thing you know, TK and Sully come out cheering like, whoa, this guy comes out. He's like our main sponsor all of a sudden. And he works for their beer, poker. So we all of it, the next day, this is, I think even before the semi, we're touring the poker beer facility. We're wearing their shirts to warm up. By the way, this is the pre-NIL days. Could you imagine those days? Yeah. So our entire USA volleyball team has these on because this guy was just so generous and was just awesome to us and was so grateful that we were there playing. So we get to go tour the local beer facility. They're actually letting us wear their shirt to say, hey, we all have these shirts going crazy. We got jerseys and shorts, uniforms, handmade for us in this city where we're playing to play all of this, just to play volleyball in the Pacific Ocean Games, right? Just to get there. And then we get to play Colombia for the gold medal. Bear, what happened?
And we took it to them. I don't really remember how many sets it went.
It went 4.
Went 4 sets, okay.
We were up 2-0. They beat us once in a close one. We came back and smashed them in the 4th. So we're sitting there at Nationals We're devastated. We lose the gold medal to the Ukraine in Holyoke. A couple of days later, Knipe calls me. We end up talking to USA Volleyball. We put this team together. We go down with T-shirts and shorts. We don't know what we're doing. We get down there. We're sponsored by a local beer company. We got a local guy that loves us. We got uniforms handmade, and we win the gold medal. We represent the United States the way we were supposed to represent the United States, by winning the gold medal. And also representing with pride, with respect, even though we did have some fun there. We did what was important, and that was to win the championship. And that's what this team was all about. And it's one of my favorite experiences ever. We talk about it all the time. Me and Geeter talk about it all the time. It was, one of his highlights as the starting setter on this team. And, that's just one story that pivots from Paul Mitchell that helped us get the opportunity to create a lifelong experience to play in a different country, representing our country.
Yeah. And Tim,
what's that, Sully?
I said, when I interviewed Tim that's how he got to France, right? Was through that at Colombia. He talked to Eric Sullivan and said, you know what, have you ever thought about going overseas? And let me talk to my agent. And yeah, like I said before, that team Paul Mitchell was unbelievable. And just in terms of, even Eric Sullivan, right? Don't see him for 10, 15 years. And I go back to Division I coaching, and he's coaching, and he's like, hey, Sully. I'm like, hey, Sully. It was kind of a weird conversation. But nonetheless, we hung out for maybe an hour or so, but it was still like, that's just that bond I think we will always have. So I think it's pretty special.
Yeah, agreed. And I'm again, like I said, when it's all said and done for me as a volleyball player, I can't have more gratitude in my heart than I do for this sport. And I think that this sport is blowing up right now. And
Huge.
That's why I'm even more honored that you guys had asked me to be a part of this. For me to get back into volleyball, it has been great, but it's just so exciting to watch. The women's game is unbelievable. I'm sitting on my couch with Michelle this fall in September. It's a Saturday. It might have been October, but regardless, September, October. It's a Saturday, and Alabama is on television, CBS, NBC, whatever it is. And on the other network channel, let's say it was ABC, it's Charlie Furbringer and Wisconsin playing against Purdue in front of 12,000 people at Purdue. When would any of us in our lifetime, when we were growing up playing this sport, which we loved, get a chance to watch college match, not like a special one to put on like a carrier in front of like the basketball game, on its own merit, to play on national television, on network television, in the middle of a day on a Saturday when college football is going on. And college football is college football. We can say what we want. People love it. I am so excited. I'm so happy. I'm honored, grateful, like I said, to see volleyball getting what it deserves.
Well, it was amazing. Just the other night, I was watching UC Santa Barbara men's against Menlo Park. What? Harvard. What? Like, it's expanding, and it's amazing. And I said before, just even like, set the pipe. Like, I'm not kidding. Women's game is, they're trying to implement Bics and pipes and A's and D's. And it's a spectacular sport right now. And frankly, they could have done it 20, 25 years ago too, but it was just not the mindset, right? But hey, that's another break and set the pipe.
Okay.
I just want to confirm, did Coley Kyman just commit to being our third host on Set the Freaking Pipe? Really? Really? I'm not dreaming this.
No, you're not dreaming it. And again, my tagline back in college, you can ask Matt Unger and Geeter, was set the pipe. Just set the pipe, because I'm going to put it away every time. And the fact that you guys asked me to be a part of this, and as I've been talking here and just reminiscing for my own self about volleyball, again, I don't talk about it that much anymore. I am just overwhelmed with happiness and so excited to be a part of this. I can't wait for what's next.
Yeah, that's cool. Like, Tim and I have got a list of people that we've contacted, and we're going to put our heads together with you. And that's kind of like the next step for us, Coley, is to sit down and start bringing people on this. But yeah, the core is to tell stories, let the people know the history of what's going on, give us our thoughts about, the current situation with college. That can go on for 100 episodes of our podcast if we want to, but just so much going on. But okay, last questions for you is, what profession other than your own would you love to try?
Okay. Well, my profession is I'm in sales. I've been in tech sales for a long time, but if I would love to try, I mean, I've tried it before, but I'd love to be a coach, love to be a teacher. I mean, that's something I never, my father was for 44 years. He was a high school football coach and baseball coach and a teacher, and I'd love to do that. And I may end up doing that in my second life here very soon. I miss coaching. I think Michelle and I are going to get back into coaching. We coached high school for about 7 years. We wanted to be parents, and parenting is one of my, if not the most important thing in my life. Yeah, it takes a lot of time if you want to do it right. And you still, if you want to do it right and you put everything into it, still doesn't give you any assurances for being right.
No, for sure.
But when we had these young men, my biggest focus was one thing was to raise good men, to raise men that treated people right, and also to give them opportunities that I didn't have. And when you believe in that, which I do, and so does my wife, it takes time. It takes money. They've been my life. I've helped them reach their goals. They've reached them on their own. They've worked hard. They've done everything, but we've helped. And when you do that, it takes a lot of time away from you. Yeah. And so for me to get into this and talk about this, I'm excited.
Yeah. From the parenting perspective, you get to a certain point and they're like, man, I hope we did a good job. Man, I hope we did a good job. Because I always tell them and the athletes that I train them, go have fun and you're going to make mistakes. Just don't make big mistakes, and just don't make big mistakes. And if you teeter on that, don't do it again, because you can only hope so far that what you can do. But what profession would you not like to try?
And the other thing is I'd love to be a professional athlete, but that was what I always wanted to do my whole life. I can't do that anymore.
Pickleball.
Wouldn't I want to do?
What profession would you not like to try?
I don't think I'd want to be a barista. I mean, talking to people would be special. I mean, I'm pretty shy, as you know. I don't like to talk.
You'd never give them the coffee.
I've never given the coffee. I just don't think I'd like to do that. I mean, I love coffee, but
Bear, can you imagine
making it for someone? I'm good.
Dude, can you imagine? Hey, can I get a grande mocha? Yeah, sure. Yeah, before I hand it to you, hey, like, dude, you'd have a cold coffee by the time you got your coffee, and there'd be 20 people in line.
Just talking to people. So that'd probably be it.
Good Lord.
I'm pretty fortunate and grateful where am today. I'd love to get back into coaching. I miss it. I miss being around teams, helping, teaching, and watching growth. Watching my children go from where they were playing T-ball or AYSO soccer at 4 or 5 years old to watching my son hit 7 threes at the University of Washington his freshman year and hit the game winner, still all-time record books as a freshman at UCLA for the most threes made, to watching my son just last night play in a rivalry game against Jay Serra at Santa Margarita, throw up 15 points, to get 4 steals, do some things that are just great in front of a packed house. Like, that's exciting to be able to watch that and see them grow from where they went to where they want to be. Now that I'm almost done with my second one, like I said, getting back into coaching and being able to teach and being around the game I love, which is volleyball, and being able to do that would be great.
Bear, I think that now that we have Coley Kyman in the house permanently, and we're in this for the long haul, by the way, boys. So like I said, you make sure you talk to Michelle. Going to be like I said, a team environment for me really drives me, and to tell stories and to make time to do this, I really appreciate it. But I think, Tim, we had some extra things we wanted to talk to Coley about, but if he's on board, man, we can probably save some of that indoor some of the beach stuff that we talked about, we wanted to talk to him about, and go a lot more in depth with his family. I think we can save that for another time. I think that's fair. What do you guys think?
Yeah, whatever you want to do, Sully. I'm just grateful to have you, to bring me on this thing today, and even more grateful for you to ask. I'm excited. I think now that I'm on board, I think another thing for all you folks out there listening, it's my first time, as I mentioned at the beginning, being on podcast. I'm supposed to say this: hit subscribe. Make sure you hit subscribe. And then the second thing I would say is, we know a lot of folks.
Yeah,
all three have name dropped tons of folks on here today.
Yeah,
but if there's someone that you think would be great to be on this podcast that you'd want to see, or something you would like to see on this podcast, put it in the comments section for us so we can see that, because we want this to be interactive for volleyball. That's what I would like to do. I think it would be great. I'm just excited sitting here thinking like, wow, I'm going to be on the podcast this whole time as I'm here. What can I do? How can I make this great to help? I mean, I'm just excited to be a part of it. But I would love to touch as many people as we can with as many stories as we can. I mean, that's where you came to me about, hey, do you want to come on the podcast?
No,
and I said,
for sure,
yeah,
Coley.
tell a story. I'd love to hear what people would like to hear about, because that's important.
Yeah, I'd like
There
to
you are.
throw out
Go ahead.
a shout out real quick to Carl Hinkle. He was on that Paul Mitchell team, and he was an Olympian as well.
Yeah.
Didn't
No,
forget about
yeah.
him.
Yeah, for sure. So, boys, I think we're going to shut down the podcast for right now. Coley Kyman, the first of the second season, because Bear was pretty much the first season. We're going to end this. We're going to end this podcast for now. But I have to tell you, after I put up my short little 5-minute video of just what was going on in my life, I got a couple of people already that direct messaged me and text me that said, "Hey, would love to be on this thing," and they were already on my list. So just the fact that we haven't done anything in terms of social media marketing. I mean, the website's setthepipe.com's not even up yet, right? So just to know this is going to be a true launch and just something special. I appreciate you both. Love you both. And Coley Kyman, thank you so much for coming on Set the Pipe,
One
brother.
aboard, Coley.
Thanks for having me, guys, and thanks for making me part of this thing. Super excited
brother.
to be a part of it. Have a wonderful day. We'll talk to you soon.
See you guys.
All right.